I'm afraid that I already heard about 3 days, 24 hours, 1 month, 100 days, 2 weeks. And Russia is just using these. They're just dragging time. And even to present their memorandum with conditions for the ceasefire, it took them 3 weeks. And we don't know will it be presented on Monday or not. They just understood, and they played the tricks with Americans that as soon as they speak that they are ready for the negotiations, Americans will wait.
Russia now has enough troops to Ukraine's north to mount a renewed invasion near the city of Sumi. That is according to Ukrainian border guards, and comes after repeated warnings about a build-up of Russian forces. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has given Vladimir Putin 2 weeks to prove he's serious about ending the fighting.
We're going to find out whether or not he's tapping us along or not. And if he is, we'll respond a little bit differently. But it'll take about a week and a half, 2 weeks. We have Mr. Witkoff is here, who's doing a phenomenal job, is dealing with them very strongly right now. They seem to want to do something, but until the document is signed, I can't tell you. Nobody can. I'm very disappointed at what happened a couple of nights now where people were killed in the middle of what you would call a negotiation. I'm very disappointed by that.
Donald Trump there addressing recent massive air attacks on Ukraine towards the end of his answer. So let's talk about that with Dr. Hanna Shelest, a security studies specialist who's advised on Ukraine's naval and foreign policy strategy. Dr. Shelest, you're very welcome on the programme. Thank you for making the time for us. Can we just talk about the city of Sumi? What's the strategic significance?
Thank you for the invitation. Sumi is one of the regional centers of Ukraine, and it is just at the border with the Kursk region. And you can imagine that the Russians originally wanted to occupy, or at least to enter, that territory a year ago. And that was the reason why Ukrainian armed forces needed to cross to the Russian territory and occupy some parts of the Kursk region, something that we've been talking a lot last year. One of the reasons for this was exactly not to allow Russians to occupy, or at least to try to occupy yet one Ukrainian region. As for now, we still have some of the forces in Kharkiv region, just at the border. Sumi would be another one, and everything is closer and closer to Kiev. So not allowing them to do it, it's just a matter of security.
OK, 50,000 troops as well. Can you put that into perspective for us?
It depends for what do you need it and how effective they are, because here the question is not in numbers. For example, you can compare it to the Russian losses per day, and usually it is 1,000. So it is 50 days of the Russian losses in their war in Ukraine. At the same time, 50,000 is quite an important and big amount. It's not the diversant group, and that would need Ukraine to take some of our forces either from the south or from the east to protect the northern border. And so in this case, definitely that's a significant amount, because you need, for example, not one brigade, but much bigger forces to be moved from other territories where the significant fightings are happening. So as the threat, that's significant, but at the same time, is it enough to occupy the new region? No, it's definitely not. And the operations like Bakhmut or Pokrovsk clearly demonstrated that it is 3 times less than what Russia may need for the initial attack.
You mentioned there 1,000 troops a day losing their lives, well, being killed. That's a better way of putting it, isn't it? I mean, sometimes we do need to really stop, don't we, and make sure that we are thinking about that intense loss of life, thinking about the families left behind, thinking about the amount of grief involved on both sides. When you hear President Trump try to do that, and he does try to do that, do you believe his sincerity?
I believe his sincerity, but I would go a little bit earlier in your phrase about the grief from that side. Most of those who are currently from the Russian side, they made this decision by themselves. Many of them just signed the contract because they were ready for money, for the salary or for the compensation that they would receive from the Russian government to kill civilian Ukrainians or to occupy the territory of another state. So here I would say that in the statement of Mr. Trump, there is one big problem. than when he compare the invader, those who are making intentionally the decision to kill others and to die because they're joining the armed forces, they are not joining the kindergarten, and the civilian Ukrainians from another side who never wanted to attack Russia, who never wanted this war. So in this way, probably to make in the same quotation the invader and the victim would be just injustice for all those who are died are in Bucha, in Irpin, and in plenty other cities.
Sure. And Dr. Shelest, I really hear you on that. What's the total loss of life, though, since the Russian invasion?
We still don't know, and that is the biggest problem, because we don't know information from the occupied territories. For example, the city of Mariupol that's been heavily bombed, and we see just with the satellite aerial how many of the new graves appeared, for example, around the city. And the estimation of the human rights organization was about several 100,000 people only in one city when the fighting began 2 years ago there. So what to speak about the other territories that are also under the total occupation, and we just don't have the proper information from there.
This 2-week warning that President Trump has given to Vladimir Putin, what do you think will happen during those 2 weeks?
We already had these 2 weeks, so honestly, I don't know what would be, because originally the U.S. president said about 2 weeks in the end of April. We are already in the end of May, and he's speaking again about the 2 weeks. So that's reminded me the old phrase about the League of Nations, the organization that was before the United Nations, that what the League of Nations can do, they will send the telegram to the conflicting parties asking them to stop. After the 10th telegram, they will say that, okay, that is our last telegram and we will not send you anymore. And here I'm afraid that I already heard about 3 days, 24 hours, 1 month, 100 days, 2 weeks. And Russia is just using these. They're just dragging time. And even to present their memorandum with conditions for the ceasefire took them 3 weeks. And we don't know will it be presented on Monday or not. They just understood, and they played the tricks with Americans that as soon as they speak that they are ready for the negotiations, Americans will wait. So yet 2 weeks. After that, most probably will be additional weeks.
And what have you made of the language that has bounced between Putin and Trump? Trump calling Putin crazy, those kind of, unhelpful big headlines that actually seem to divert the world's attention away from what Ukraine wants to happen and wants to be heard said.
Let's say that we all knew what has been Donald Trump and his social network. So it seems to me that nobody really surprised by the type of the language that he's using there. So originally, and still in the social networks, yes, it's making a news, but it's not the news for the experts or for the diplomats, for the politicians. We see what is the Russian reaction as we are following their social networks or their politicians, and they are just laughing. Unfortunately, they are not taking it seriously. So it doesn't have the effect that the American president wanted it to have. Russians are expecting actions, not the tweets or something like this. In this way, it's just like, as any other meme that is appearing in the social networks. What is much more important is what conditions the U.S. delegation is presenting to Ukrainians or to Russians, what sanctions they are ready to apply, and do they deliver weapons or not? So the actions are much more important than the tweets.
Yeah, for sure. Just to return to Sumi, the residents of Sumi, most of them have been evacuated. Am I right to say that?
Not from the city of Sumi. We are speaking about the villages around Sumi. The Sumi city is not evacuated yet. However, definitely a lot of people have been leaving the city because for several months, Russians been using so-called gliding bombs. It's very difficult to intercept them. And because it is so close to the border, so Russian airplanes are not crossing the border. They are in the safe airspace at their territory. And then they are sending these bombs, just destroying securing the town. It's still not that dangerous as, for example, situation was in Bakhmut or what is happening in the cities like Konstantinovka on the east. But definitely it is the daily attacks, and that make the situation quite complicated and dangerous.
It's really good to talk to you this afternoon. Thank you very much indeed for that. That's Dr. Hanna Shelest, who is a securities study specialist who has advised on Ukraine's naval and foreign policy strategy.